Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Alestral's deck profile for you. Today I'm coming at you with the Position Change deck. So this may or may not be a list that you've heard of, but you probably are at least somewhat familiar with the headliner cards of it, both Veritagua and Verituca. These cards both offer certain advantages when battling over Alestrals based on their position. The Veritagua, if it battles in a defense position Alestral, can suppress that Alestral and then destroy it. You don't deal any damage in that case. Verituca, if it's attacking and it enters battle with an attack position Alestral that has equal or fewer enchanting spirits in attack position, then you can suppress and then destroy it. So that's basically the idea, is that no matter what position your opponent's Alestrals are in, and no matter how strong they are, these cards can definitely help you take them out. And of course, since they are going to be the headliners of the deck, we are playing a full playset of each. So this is also why this deck is kind of referred to as Position Change, is because we're going to be changing, the position of our opponent's Alestrals, depending on which one of these we have, in order to best take them out. These cards do function very similarly, Verituca being wind, Veritagua being water. They're both 3/1s. The thing to note, though, is that Tuca is a little bit different than Tagua, because Tuca has to be the one attacking the opponent's Alestral. And again, the Tuca also has to have, the attack position Alestral that the Tuca is battling into must have equal or fewer than spirits than the Tuca to be able to suppress and destroy it. Of course, they would have to rein in the Tuca effect a little bit, because it deals with attack position Alestrals, and just be able to battle over them, win every battle with attack mode Alestrals would be a little bit too good. But the Veritagua is a little less nuanced. It's just whenever it battles a defense position Alestral. So it doesn't have to have, more spirits or anything like that. It just immediately suppresses and destroys it. The suppress and destroy in particular is very, very good, because it means that effects like Cafmel or Foamy won't go off, which is pretty relevant in today's meta. We've seen decks featuring both of those cards do well in recent tournaments. So our other wind and water Alestrals that help us change the position of stuff for the Tuca and the Tagua are going to be Eddie, of course, we're playing the playset of that. And then we also have a playset of Sorlet as well. So, again, wind and water, or water and wind rather, respectively. These cards are both not only good position changers, but just excellent cards in their own right. I don't need to speak to the virtues of Eddie. If you've played just about any amount of Alestrals, flipping it over there. If you've played just about any amount of Alestrals, then you've definitely run into Eddie. The Sorlet, not only again offering position changing, but also being a 5/1 in particular, having that 5 attack stat is fantastic for this deck. So that's all of our wind and water Alestrals. We do also play some Thunders as well. We've got a playset of Boombat, and then we have a playset of Astrabbit. So the Astrabbit's pretty obvious. It's an Alestral deck, so we play 3 Astrabbit. We're already playing Thunder, so Boombat's not that big of an ask to play in that regard. This card's a little bit similar to Tuca and Tagua as well, just being a small 1 spirit that can take stuff out with a card effect. Of course, Boombat has to disenchant, but the reason that we're able to support the Boombat in this strategy is because we are playing 2 copies of Poseidon. So, you'll notice we're not playing Elechik or Plucky, and we're not maxing out on Poseidon. No searchers, just the 2 copies of it. That's because this deck actually doesn't even need Poseidon all the time, but Poseidon does really help. Not only for the Boombat, which we're kind of incidentally playing because we already want to play Poseidon, and that is going to be for the Verituca. Now, as mentioned before, the Verituca has to have equal or greater than enchanting spirits than whatever attack position Alestral it's battling to be able to suppress and destroy it with its effect. And that's where the Poseidon comes in. Thanks to Poseidon, the Tuca is able to take out 2 or sometimes even 3 spirit Alestrals with relative ease. So that's, again, the main reason. Well, it's like 75% of the reason why we play it. If it was just the Tuca, I'd be a little wary of even playing Poseidon. But we also have the Boombat for some additional synergy there as well. So Poseidon just really helping our little dudes take out our opponent's stuff there. And since we're playing a copy, or two copies rather, of Poseidon, I'm playing a single copy of Trident of Poseidon. This artifact not only buffing attack by 2, but while the Poseidon is enchanted, it makes the opponent unable to cast counter runes. I do think that is quite important because of how much these cards need to get in with battling, right? So, that said, we're only playing 2 Poseidon and it's not searchable. So the Trident is also kind of niche in that regard as far as how often it comes up. I actually didn't have it come up in my games, so I could easily see taking that out at some point. We're playing Earthquake, which is pretty much just a staple at this point. We have 3 copies of Ambro, duh, it's an Alestral's deck. 2 copies of Nog. We're not really that much of a dedicated combo deck, but at the same time, we do really want to see that Poseidon, so resting on your laurels, staple. 3 Tsunami, pretty obvious. We're playing water already. This is a fantastic card, and this is the position change deck, so naturally 3 Tsunami is going to settle in quite well. And then just more counter Omnis to round out Gorgon's Gaze, PTA, and Shield of Achilles. We're rocking a playset of each of those, so that's the main deck. For the Spirit deck, we have, of course, our 2 Teratlus for the Earthquake. I've got 4 Zaptor. I think that's enough for the Boombats and the Astrabbits. I could see a world where you play a 5th. So, right now I'm playing 5 Wind, which leaves us with 9 Water. But I definitely did have, during my games here, I had a couple of times where I ran low on Wind. That said, I guess I did also have a game where I ran low on water. The spirit math for this deck is actually kind of weird, because, you have not that much wind, to be fair. It's basically just the Storlets and the Tukas, but the Storlet does expend wind, in order to be able to change position there. So sometimes you do end up getting a little bit low on wind. I don't know. I could very easily see a world where it's actually 8 water, 6 wind. There is also the matter of the 5th Thunder that did kind of come up in testing as well. Like I said, spirit math on this deck might look really simple, but it is actually a little bit wonky sometimes to kind of figure out there. So, alright. This is kind of just a wonky deck in general, I won't lie. It's a little bit weird, but nothing wrong with a weird deck. Had a lot of fun playing it, like I said. So, yeah, that'll do it for the deck profile portion. Let's go ahead and see these games. Okay, so we're going to go into these games against Keisojama, who is once again on the Wet Thunder deck. That's going to be the Thunder deck with a water package, of course. Keiso mulliganed, actually, before setting to expending a draw and then passing. I've talked about this before, but expending a draw on turn 1, I think, is actually not a bad play given the hand. And it looks like Keiso definitely has the back row to back that up. So I'm going to lead off with a Nog here, spending water and wind to draw a couple of cards. I definitely should have spent double water. Don't have as much wind in my spirit deck as I think I might have thought there. I think I might have thought. Anyway, I'll set a card myself, and really at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and establish one of my weaker... Well, I mean, I kind of have all weak dudes, but I'm going to establish the Verutagua here and see what comes down in response. It's going to be a PTA. I definitely don't mind the Verutagua eating the PTA in this situation because I still get to get in for 1, and it's not like Keiso's really got any defense mode dudes that I need to take out. Like, if there was an Astrabbit up in play in defense mode, I would have been a little bit more sad about that Verutagua going away. But here I'm actually pretty glad that it ate the PTA, so Jolton coming down from Keiso. That's going to get an A-OK from me. Looks like that'll grab, of course, the Mount Olympus. Yeah, so this is actually not that great of a matchup, which is kind of one of the reasons why this deck is maybe not as great in the current meta. And that is because of kind of how Veretuka interacts with the Arcolith. Mainly in that the Veretuka can only suppress and destroy an Alestral with equal or fewer enchanting spirits to the Tuka. So if you run into an Arcolith that's got 5 spirits on it, your Tuka can never be an out to it unless you can somehow get 5 spirits onto the Tuka. Now, of course, we do have other outs like Boombat, but
You know, not having quite as many outs to Thunder's main card as much as other decks definitely does hurt us a little bit. Even other Thunder variants like Volt Tempest is also pretty rough because we can't target it, and again, getting the Tuca up to even 3 spirits is definitely a bit of a task, right? So, Jolton getting in for 1 here. I'm very reluctant to spend these waters for some reason. I might have a Poseidon in my hand that might have something to do with it, if that is the case. I guess it is the reason why we have so many waters, is because we do have the Poseidons. And the Trident, to be fair. I do wonder if we really need the Trident, though. Another PTA coming down here. That is going to be pretty rough because the Jolton has 2 defense and now the Eddy is down to 2 attack. Meaning, of course, that I am not going to be able to swing over Jolton. I'm still going to have to move to end phase and let that PTA get paid out. Taking out the Eddy there. So, yeah, not off to a great start at all this game. I really just cannot get a foothold in this board state. Alright, let's see what Queso's got. It's a Thunder Spirit for an Elachik this time. Okay. So we know one of the cards in hand, one of the 3 it looks like in hand is Mount Olympus. Elachik is good. So now there's going to be a Zeus, too. So there's going to be 4 cards. Zeus, Mount Olympus, 2 unknowns. I believe it's 2 unknowns. I don't think we know, what those other 2 are. It's just been, it's kind of been one of those games where you just have to deal with back row the whole game, and it's all been, like, live and relevant. It's kind of like, I will say Elestrals is very reminiscent of old school Yu-Gi-Oh! In this regard. Because in old school Yu-Gi-Oh! I remember this vibe kind of coming up a lot, too, where it's like, sometimes it kind of felt like games were either one player had a ton of back rows and it was kind of hard to get a foothold in the board, or one player had like no back rows and nothing ever like really developed from them as a result. I'm gonna Tsunami here now that 2 damage is threatening to come in. Plus that Elchik's only got 1 defense, so shouldn't be too hard to. I mean, Jolton's only got 2 as well, so neither should be terribly difficult to battle over here. Alright, looks like I'm kind of weighing my options here. Thinking about what I want to spend. Or, no, because I didn't take damage, because I played Tsunami. Just think about what I want to play. Yeah, I mean, even if I could take one of these out, like I said, it's still not the most ideal spot to be in. There is also the matter of, like, I guess, if we have multiple threats, trying to figure out, that's what I was debating, if I wanted to Earthquake the Jolton. Because, yeah, I mean, as I was about to say, whatever we try to develop here is going to be met with the other card, right? And we know there's a Zeus and a Mount Olympus, so battling over whatever we put down is trivial, absolutely trivial here. So, Gorgon's Gate is going to stop this Storlet. We're going to get in a face-down card before passing over to Queso. I guess the Gorgons was flipped up before I declared the attack. Okay, Arcolith being ascended over the Elachik here. So, I mean, that's the thing about Arcolith, right? It's kind of like the oxymoron of trying to play around Arcolith. And I think this is kind of why I end up playing into it sometimes, and it's trying to find that balance, right? Because, obviously if you try to develop too much of a board, right, as far as having 2 attack position Elestrals go, then you run into the danger of the Arcolith coming down. But also, if you don't develop enough of a board and your opponent is able to keep a Thunder Elestral around, well, they can just ascend into the Arcolith anyway. So sometimes it really is kind of like damned if you do, damned if you don't, right, when it comes to trying to play around Arcolith. But at the same time, I think that's also one of the reasons why I wanted to Earthquake the Jolton there. So I was trying to Earthquake Jolton and then battle over Elachik, which would not only leave 0 Thunders on Queso's field, but also only 1 attack position Elestral on mine, meaning I wouldn't have to deal with Arcolith. So in that regard, that makes, I think, the idea of playing that Earthquake a little more worth it. Alright, really debating when I went back with this Ambro. I know I need the water, because I pulled that out right away. But let's see what we can find here. The wind, yep. Another water, okay. Just throwing them back in order there, okay. Yeah, I try to think of things that would get me out of this situation. I mean, we do have, like, resting and boom bat and all that kind of stuff. Is this, I think I'm playing a Verotagwa in defense mode, and I'm misenchanting it with wind. Such a weird spot to be in. Just like playing this such the most random defender in the world. I wonder... 2 cards in hand. Wonder what I was thinking about misenchanting it. I guess it depends on what the total overall spirit count is. It's just kind of weird that I put back 2 water and a wind, only to misenchant the Verotagwa with the wind. I think that's a little bit odd. Wonder what was going through my head. Anyway. Let's see what ends up developing here. Yeah, I think I really would need Boom Bat, and even then it kind of depends on the face down card as well. I mean, I guess we do have some other outs potentially. Okay, Queso playing a water after mulling it over for a bit. It's an Eddy, gonna flip my Tagua to attack mode. And then after that, Arclith gets to battle in. Oh, we don't have anything for it. Same with the Eddy here. It looks like it's probably just going to be able to get in. Taking 4, and then a 5th one from Eddy. Keeping 1 of each water, wind, and thunder in the spirit deck. Okay, we did rip an Astrabbit, but like... I don't know. It's like, given what our spirit situation looks like, I have to imagine that we just have to rip an Ambrosia. But I don't even know if that... I mean, there's a lot of situations where that's not even enough to let us live a turn. And even if it is, like, what could we possibly hope to top deck after that, right? Like, it's true that, you know, with a lot of games at a certain point, you're just trying to, like, figure out how to live till the next turn. But there are also a lot of games where you do have to kind of ask yourself, like, what is my overall sort of game plan after living through this? Like, do I have an end game? Do I have any reasonable line to an end game? I guess for me... it was just trying to find Boom Bat, but we'd also have to live in a world where I can find a Boom Bat and then not just lose on the follow-up turn, which is not, I think, a world we realistically ever live in. Okay, did find an Ambro, so I mean, that is step 1 of any hypothetical plan that may or may not happen, but I cannot really imagine this coming to fruition here. Got the water. Really want that water. I think I do have that Poseidon in hand, but the Poseidon can only Nexus 1 at a time, so there's no real world where I can expect to get up to 5 spirits pretty much ever, even if I have a Tuca. Which would also kind of make... if I have Tuca Poseidon, that does make sense why I'm putting back water, wind, but at the same time, like, can we really play to that game plan right now? That's kind of what I was saying before. I don't know. It's an Astrabbit coming down from Queso here. It's going to let him look at the top 3 again. Or again. Just in general. Like I say again, I guess, because I played an Astrabbit. But everybody plays Astrabbit. I really do hope Astrabbit at least goes to 1, if not getting banned. I don't know. It's like... yeah, it's probably just got to go. I feel like Thunder will probably be still a good enough deck without it. Well, because, I mean, I think Elchik is a little suspect as well, but... I don't know. Hitting Rabbit and Elchik might be a bit much for Thunder. But at the same time, I don't know. I guess Elchik is played in, what? Thunder and Earth? Well, there's a number of decks that consider it, to be fair. 4-1 is just such a good stat line. If they did do an Escape from Tartarus for Elchik, it would literally probably just need to be like a 3-1, and the card's like completely okay. That's a little more in line with like where Plucky is. Yeah, I'm just scooping it up here. Looks like I did end up having the Poseidon in hand there, but there's just not really a world where I can mount a comeback against this Arclith here. So, looks like we're going to pivot into this next game here, and this time I'm going to be starting us off. See what we got. Leading off with the Sorlet. Definitely not a bad opening play. I mean, as mentioned in the deck profile portion, Sorlet is a 5, and 5 attack is a good number to have for sure. I mean, 5 defenses as well, but 5 in general, just a great number to have on a 1 spirit. couple of back rows from Queso. And looks like, is this going to be an Edward? No, it's a Foamy. Okay. A good old-fashioned Foamy. Foamy, of course, can threaten to get the Eddie or the Galaxy. But here I have a Verutagua. And now we actually get to kind of see what this deck does in action. It's going to get hit with the PTA, but thankfully PTA does not negate the Verutagua. So Verutagua suppresses and destroys whatever defense position Celestial it battles into. So the Foamy is it's a perfect target for it here, because not only is the Foamy suppressed, but it's dying by card effect, not battle. So therefore, no effect on either front. Gonna swing in with the Sorlet here, and then during the end phase, PTA is gonna get paid out on my Verutagua. But that's a prime example of the Tagua in action there, with a perfect target to hit as well. Alright, Jolton coming down here. I'm absolutely going to Gorgon's Gaze Jolton. I make no fuss about Gorgon's Gazing stuff like Jolton and Elchik. Jolton, it might seem like, oh, the stadium just gives +1/+1, but do remember, of course, that it also does enable the race to the top, so we don't want that coming down. Astrap is going to come down on our board, though. Pony in defense mode, which I think in the early game is just general good practice, but of course, against Thunder, we got to be mindful of the Arcolith, as always as ever. Considering my options here with this Astrabbit, before picking and shuffling it back up. So this game we're in a pretty nice board state. I'd say we're generally ahead on board. I've mentioned this a little bit before. I was talking about it a little bit in the last game too, but I think board states in this game in particular are very important to pay attention to, and playing for the board in this game, I feel like in a lot of matchups ends up being correct. Playing for the board is generally good in tempo-based matchups, and there's a lot of tempo-y matchups in Elestrals right now. I mean, Fives is generally just like a tempo deck. Well, Thunder, I think for that matter, is also a tempo deck. I mean, you think about tempo in the form of just sheer card efficiency, and you have something like Elchik, which is a decent-sized body, again, with 4 attack that adds the Zeus, which can threaten to help you destroy multiple Elestrals. It's all very good value. Same with the Jolton, getting the Mount Olympus for not only the buff, but also the race to the top. Just having good stats along with this solid net positive effect is just so good, so good. Speaking of race to the top, it's going to come down here alongside the Mount Olympus to take out my Sorlet. A little bit annoying, but not that big of a deal, especially because my Astrabbit does get buffed up to 6 defense thanks to the Mount Olympus here. Yeah, as a result, this Jolton can't really get in that easily, so I'm going to go for the Veratuka. It's going to get hit with the Gorgon's Gaze, unfortunately, but it is still it's a very, very nice way to out, those one spirits. I mean, the fact that it can out one spirit without having to have any additional spirits on it is just already so good. I'd be eager to try this deck against a Fives. I feel like that actually might be a pretty good matchup for this position change deck. Alright, so Queso's thinking here. Considering his options, reaching for a Thunder in that Spirit deck, and looks like it is going to be, taking a sip of my water here, is that another Jolton? It's actually kind of hard to tell from this angle with the glare. Oh, I think that's actually a Quackle. I do believe that was a Quackle, yes. Alright, so my Tuca is a little bit threatened here. Well, not a little bit. It is just threatened by the Jolton, which is, of course, a 5/3 right now, thanks to Mount Olympus. But even without that, the Veratuka is a 3/1, so... And, of course, do remember that Veratuka can only use this effect when it is the one attacking. So if it gets attacked, it does not suppress and destroy an Elestral, even if that Elestral has fewer or equal enchanting spirits. I do have a Tsunami here. to help aid with the Tuca not dying. I did not switch that Veritouka to defense mode. I mean, to be fair, I would have switched it right back anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, but normally I'm pretty good about catching that with myself. I did not do it right there. One of the reasons I kind of like, I definitely don't mind recording my gameplay is to be able to catch mistakes that I do like that and then try to not do them in the future. I got a Sorlet coming down here, and I will put my Astrabbit to attack here, although I think that was actually a misplay that I take back, if I recall. You know what? I'm in a weird position here, because Tuca has to be battling in attack mode Lestral to be able to get the effect, and I actually can't take out the Joltons. 2 defense. Well, 3 defense, rather, is actually too high here, because of the Mount Olympus, yeah. So I can only really battle with Sorlet. So yeah, Queso let me take back the Astrabbit to attack mode, which was very kind of him. I mean, you've probably noticed over the course of these deck profiles that these kind of fun games that we do, we're not the most stringent about, oh, you did this play, so you can't take it back. I think when you're testing, allowing takebacks for optimized play is actually definitely the way to do things, right? Because if you force your friend to commit to a misplay, in a testing scenario, neither of you are benefiting from playing that game out. Because, you both should be playing assuming you're in optimized board state. Like, your friend, your opponent in this testing should want to, or should be able to test out an optimized line, and you should also want to know how to be able to counter that, so. Alright, so lost our Tuca, but we still have the Sorlet, we still have the Astrabbit as well. Got the Veritagua now, so now we can actually threaten to battle over both of Queso's things here. Well, the Sorlet would have to crash, which I could do, but I guess I don't expend the wind here. I think, you know what? I'm pretty sure I only had 1 wind, and so that's why I opted to crash instead of... Oh, but I think I still should have used it right there. This is, I think, the game state that kind of made me think that 5 wind might not be enough. I think this was it, now that I'm seeing this. Because if I remember correctly, I do have 1 wind in my Spirit Deck at this point, but I might even have another Tuca in my hand, and that's why I didn't use it here. That would make sense. Alright, Edward coming down, and actually going to switch the Rabbit. I don't know why I assumed the Toggle was going to get swapped there. It's like, duh, of course you would swap the Rabbit here. Then Edward going in for battle. As I'm considering my options. Yeah, I Gorgons the attack, so ultimately I should have just probably ended up Gorgonsing on the effect and keeping my bunny in defense mode. Doesn't really matter, it's not really going to affect anything here, but... Alright, let's see what we got. Yeah, I did have another Tuca, and it looks like I did only have 1 wind left, so that all tracks. Got an Amber. Well, I did have an Amber, I guess, as well, so we could just get more wind back if we really needed it in this situation. But I still think it is worth exploring the idea of putting in a 6 wind. Figuring out Spirit Math is so interesting. It's one of the most fascinating parts of deck building in this game to me. It might be just the most fascinating, but maybe. Either way, it is cool. I like it. Yeah, you can see I've already reached for 2 wind. I'm like, that much I know for sure, for certain, is going back in there. Is that 3rd wind? No, I'm still thinking on it. That's a water. Okay, I put back a water as well as the winds. Okay. Now that's taken care of. We can swing in with the Tuca, suppressing and destroying the Eddy. Oh, yeah, and then I'm like, oh, yeah, let me switch the Rabbit to defense mode. Yeah, I mean, it's like, here, I'm still playing into the Arclith, because I have 2 attack mode dudes, but it's like, I think it's still good to put the rabbit in defense mode here. There's just so many worlds where you could lose it unnecessarily. Although, I don't know, maybe it would have been smarter to do, because then that actually baits attacks away from my Tuca/Togwa, which I guess I do care more about here. And, like, yeah, either way, as we're seeing here, I played into the Arcolith, so... Yeah, Arcolith gets to come down here. And with 5 spirits, no less. It's such a scary card. It's so good. That's I thought the video was paused for a second there. At 4, it looks so nice on Queso's end there too. Yeah, so here I'm explaining exactly how the Tuca works and why it's no good against the Arcolith there. Again, would need 5 spirits to be able to use the effect. And even then, it's an attacking effect, right? If it gets attacked, it doesn't trigger, like I mentioned before. So, Ambro being cast off of the Arcolith is going to heal some spirits back into Queso's deck. Looks like it's some waters as well as a thunder there. The waters going back is kind of interesting. Might mean Eddy and or Tsunami might be in my near future. More likely to be Eddy. I think that tends to get teched a little bit more often, but I see decks teching either or both. Like I've played decks that play like 1 water just for a couple of Tsunamis, but I've also seen a fair number of decks where Eddy and Tsunami are the only waters. I guess to be fair here, we know it's the Foamy and the Galaxy are in the deck too. Can't go wrong with that though. Just such good cards. Particularly the Galaxy and the Eddy. Thankfully, we do have the resting on your laurels here. It's going to take out the Arcolith. Going to go for another Spirit on the Astrabbit. And even though I did that, I'm pretty sure I just keep it in defense mode here. Not wanting to deal with another Arcolith. No, I swap it to attack. Okay. What if I face down Gorgon's Gaze in? I mean, maybe I don't know. This is the other thing. I mean, this is what I've been talking about with the Arcolith too. It's like, in a situation like this, where the difference is like swinging in for 1 versus swinging in for 3, it's so obvious in the moment to be like, oh yeah, I definitely just swing in for 3 here. But then, it's also really easy to get punished by the Arcolith at the same time, so... Right, it's a water for a Galaxy here. Water for Galaxy. Galaxy is going to attempt to hit over the bunny, I have to imagine. And let's... Oh, no, it's the Togwa. Okay. I thought for sure it was going to be the rabbit. I thought it was going to be the rabbit, and then I was going to have, like, a back row that I used, but that was not the case here. Alright, checking out that spirit deck. I think I have something here. I'm just trying to figure out exactly how to execute it. Always interesting when the rabbit starts piling up spirits on it. It can start hitting for multiple, because at that point it's like... It's almost like putting coins in a slot machine. You kind of want to just like keep going, because there's another like, especially because there's another like tangible benefit to it. But at the same time, we're staring down this galaxy that we've got to do something about. But oh, that's right. I put a water on the Astrabbit. This will actually flip the stats that are being affected by Galaxy. And don't forget, JJ also has Mount Olympus in play. So since my Astrabbit has a water and 2 thunder, while the Galaxy was up, my Astrabbit was actually a 7-4, which let it battle over the Galaxy as a 5-2. Now it's back down to a 4-7 in this board state. So that's wild. That's super good. That is crazy good. All right. Almost at the end of this game here, and then we can wrap up this this little deck profile here. It's been a very interesting deck. Okay, so important to note that Galaxy's got a Thunder on it. It's Thunder Enchanted, so it's not swapped. It's in defense mode. It's a 3/6, but yeah, position change has been it's been a very interesting deck. I don't know if it's quite my speed. I don't know if it's quite my style, but I can see why this is a thing. That's been played to moderate success in multiple tournaments. From what I've heard, this deck has like bubbled, that has almost gotten top 8 a couple of times. And I could understand the appeal, like, you know, somebody liking this style of deck very specifically. Alright, I'm debating what I want to do with this Astrap. This Astrap is just sitting with 3 spirits out here. I think Kiso's got 2 left over there, so I expend a draw. We have an Ambro. That's pretty good for me. I've already used resting. I don't think I've EQ'd this game. I don't think I've given up on my Earths yet either. Yeah, I'm putting the rabbit back to defense mode and then passing, so I don't have an immediate out to this 3/6 Galaxy here. And I'm just hoping that no more additional threats that I'll have to deal with come up. Although, to be fair, if they do, you know, Queso's down to 1 spirit left, so there's only so much more he can play at this point, right? It's a very finite amount of cards that could come down from Queso here, but draw for turn, and I believe we are going to be able to round out the game on this turn. Yeah, reaching into my spirit deck. Oh, yep, and there's the Boombat. I thought that's what it was for the last turn there. So, yeah, from here, Boombat can pop the Galaxy. Then we can switch the Astrap into attack mode, and looks like Queso's just going to scoop it up right there. The face-down card being Poison Tipped Arrow. So that'll do it for this game. Thanks for watching. As always, as ever, make sure to sub if you want to see more deck profiles. I do post Celestials content every other day. But that is going to do it for this one. This is XLEX signing out, hoping that you all, yes, each and every one of you, have a fantastic day.